I said, oh, the Underground Railroad is alive and well. And then Richard Crabtree fell in love with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got shaft, honey.
So Johnny Carson owned Amen.
What?
Yeah. People will scream across the room and say, Daddy. Okay. A Reuben. So that will stay with me forever. Okay. Yeah.
Forever and ever.
Yeah. The Lion said, we don't want no black meat. We got all this black meat out here. We want some of you. And I thought, oh, look what interesting on Comedy Divas. That's the comedy of errors. Okay?
Hello, hello, and welcome to the Comedy Divas Gurl Talk podcast, where we talk to funny divas from the stage to the screen to behind the scenes to everywhere in between to hear their amazing stories, because you know what? They just aren't told enough. I'm your host and founder of Comedy Divas, Sharon Brathwaite, aka Sharon B. Thank you so much for being here. We have a special diva in the house tonight. Before we get to her, please like and subscribe, comment, so we can hear what stories you want to hear and we can hear what divas you want to hear. So without further ado, we have a special lady in the house. We have Miss Anna Maria Horsford. Miss Horsford is an actress, a producer, a director. She has over 132 credits. So I'm just going to name you a few, but you know her and love her. Just name a few. Amen, Wayans Brothers, Friday After Next. She got nominated for an Emmy for The Bold and the Beautiful. You saw her on The Last OG with Tracy Morgan. And most recently, you see her No Good Deeds on Netflix. Please welcome Anna Maria Horsford. Yay!
Wow. She's busy. Yes. I'm talking in third person now. Okay. I've been busy. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
And what I do want to say, just I met you a couple years ago. I was at a table read for the Directors Guild, and you were so nice. And I was like, I'm going to start this podcast. I would love to have you. And you were like, reach out. I answered my old emails, answered my old social media, and you are a lady of your word, and I appreciate you. So
but I forgot to tell you, I know nothing tech. Okay, so if the computer don't work, you out of luck. If the phone don't work, you out of luck. But thank God we got it together. Okay.
Yeah, we did. So thank you so much. I like to jump right into it. When did you know you were funny?
I don't know if I knew I was funny. I don't think you make yourself funny. I think you make yourself serious and to the point. And if people react to that with a laugh, then it's something else. I've always had the habit of doing that, not really understanding, oh, that was funny. I was in a concert when I was about 5 years old at Carnegie Hall. It was a group dance, and my ribbon became untied. I did not know you're not supposed to sit down in the middle of the circle and tie your shoe. And so I did that. By the time I had finished tying my shoe, the girls were off the stage and I heard everyone laughing. And I said, now what was that? I knew I was supposed to tie the shoe. I couldn't I couldn't step up on my toes without it. But they laughed, and then I got off the stage because the dance was over, so I never did the dance. That was the first time I heard that much laughter. Said, oh, I wonder what happened. Because you don't understand it. You can't make yourself funny. Even when you're acting in a part, you can't say, I'm going to be funny. Because it kills it. You have to be to the point, focused, and serious about what you're saying. And let people react the way they want.
Did you get the bug? Because I was a theater kid too. Did that give you that? But there's something about a live audience. There's something about that immediate reaction. Did you get that bug really young?
Yeah. At the church concerts, you get the little recitals. You get a part, and you have to memorize it. And then you grease your legs and put on some white socks and go. And you speak loud. And the compliment was everybody heard you in the back row.
That's right.
That was the compliment. You know what I mean? If they could hear you. So I was always loud. That was not a problem. And I reminded my mother, I said, all the things I got in trouble with when I was young, I'm now making money on it. I'm still loud and they can hear me in the back of the room, and it's okay now. It's okay. But it's just, again, I don't know if you set out to be funny. You set out to be serious because you want people to take you seriously. Now, how it comes out might be funny, but that's what it is. But I loved going on stage. I loved that. Commanding and everybody in the audience looking at you. That I kind of liked.
Now, I know that you grew up in New York. I'm from New York too, and you have West Indian parents, so I do as well.
Oh, okay.
Connected.
Two pushy West Indian girls. Okay.
West Indian girls. Yes, ma'am. Tell me a little bit for people who don't know about your upbringing in New York.
Well, I tell you, my mother was born and raised in Santo Domingo, and my father was from Antigua. Okay. And my mother was a very smart lady because the first trip we took, airplane trip, she sent the three of us, my three siblings, the two siblings and myself, back to Antigua to see our grandmother on the father's side. And that was a big, big deal. And that's when I learned that all toilets were not inside. Because the first night I got there, I said, "So Grandma, where's your bathroom?" And she said, "Down that road." I said, No. I asked for the bathroom. She said, "Go down." I said, whoa. I did not know anything about outhouses. But you know what? It's very funny. You get familiar with it soon. And I just thought, how smart of us to be introduced to other ways to live at a very early age.
Absolutely.
When you're that young, you don't make judgment on it. You know, you might appreciate the bathroom back in your house in New York, but you just say,
oh. And the shower. Okay. Having to get heat up.
No heat. You just, like I said, you're too young to make a judgment on it. You just kind of adjust, and loved it. And when we came back, I said, "Oh, you know, their bathroom is down the road. They don't have the bathroom here." That was the big, big deal. And the cousin whose bedroom we took, I said, "Where are you going to sleep? Is there another room?" He said, "No, I'll sleep on the floor." So we said, "Oh, okay." So that's when you kids say, "We didn't realize you were poor." We realized there was a difference. Yeah. And then, you know, as the years passed, we went to other relatives' house who had indoor plumbing and hot showers. But the first experience into the Caribbean was very, very eye-opening. And it was a thing you couldn't eat on the street. If you had food, you had to eat it in the house. If you walked out
at the table, yeah.
That was like, everybody turned around and looked at you. So there were little things that I said, "Oh, wow, these people are different."
Now, do you speak Spanish?
No, my mother said that she didn't teach us Spanish because in case she wanted to talk badly about my father, she didn't want us to know. And I said, "So we missed a whole thing because you wanted to talk bad about it?" She said, "Yes."
So no habla español un poquito?
No, but I used to talk. I went to school in Puerto Rico, and I would talk, Inter-American University of Puerto Rico. And we went to a girlfriend's house who is from there. And they said, "Do your roommates speak Spanish?" They said, the little black one, she speaks Spanish. And I said, "No, I don't. I speak with an accent." So I spoke English with an accent. And they thought, but I understood a lot more than I thought too.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where Anna Maria comes from. Okay. Mm-hmm. And did you, just a sidebar, did you get mistaken for the other Anne Marie Johnson a lot?
Well,
because you guys were...
when I came here, we would get each other's mail. It was very interesting. And I said, "Oh," she said, "I get a lot of your mail." And I said, "Really?" I said, "People, I guess when they wrote fan mail or whatever." But we became friends early on. And now, is she Anne Marie? She's Anna Marie. No, she's
but she's Anne Marie.
She's Anne Marie, and I'm Anna Maria.
Right.
Yeah, Anna Maria Alberghetti was popular then, but they knew, I guess, I didn't look like her. So they would always say that as the last name. Anna Maria Alberghetti? I said, no, Horsford. Okay.
Now you went to a very popular high school.
High School of Performing Arts. Yes.
And that's when it was two schools, so people don't realize it was High School Performing Arts and Music and Art, right?
Right. Two different locations. We were 46th Street, right off Broadway, in the theater district. And I don't know.
And what was that like? And were any of your classmates, what was it, the environment like? Did they all come up in the theater? What was that like?
Well, we weren't allowed to be in the profession while you were in high school. This is way back then. Glynn, Turman went while I went. Ben Vereen. There was about 8 to 10 Black kids in performing arts. And the interesting thing is, looking back now, all the Black ones went into the profession. And the little ones never, most of them did not. Now, I don't know if that has to do with most of the white kids went on to college. And the Black ones went straight into the business. I went into an anti-poverty program called Hard You Act. And then I decided I should go to college. And that's when I found Inter-American University of Puerto Rico. And, yeah, because I didn't want to be around any more white children after high school. And I knew I didn't want to be around a lot of Black people. So I couldn't go to any of the historically Black schools. I was sick of humans after graduating from high school. So I said, well, where can I go where people won't get on my nerves? And I used to go to the library every day and look through all the books, the references books. And I found this school that was built for American soldiers, their children, in San Germán, Puerto Rico. And I said, oh, maybe I could deal with them. And I did. My mother says, your nerves are very delicate. They were, okay? So anyway, I could deal with them. I had a wonderful time. Yes. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about one of your first big credits because you were on a historical show called Soul, which you actually produced on as well as a young person.
Yes, I came there August 10th, and that was...
For those who don't know about Soul, can you tell people what Soul was?
Well, Soul was created after the riots in the 60s so that Black people would not go in the street and fight, and they could stay home and watch their images on TV. PBS thought it would be wonderful to create because we had no representation on the airways. And a gentleman, Kit Lucas, was a executive producer there, and he called his friend Ellis Hazlett, who was a producer of theater, and said, would you help me develop this cultural show? And that was the purpose. So maybe Black people would go in the streets and riot and talk about this and talk about that and their uneasiness. And it was created in 68 as a live show. And you don't know you're making history. You don't. It's the aftermath. The good part about that was because it was no other Black show that dealt with Black culture, we got everybody to appear in the show. The only
got some amazing guest stars. Can you tell us something you posted?
Yeah. You got a call and said you want to go on TV because most of the people were doing live shows. Patti LaBelle was one of his first guests. We did the first Alvin Ailey special. We had
some Donny Hathaway on as well.
Donny Hathaway was on. Roberta Flack. I think they were on different. Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson. We didn't know them as entertainers. We knew them as songwriters. And Ellis first special. We had all the Black poets. We had every Black famous person who wrote poetry was on Soul because Ellis loved poetry. And interesting for 4.5 years, nobody bothered us. The show was so talking about the powers that be. And in the 5th year, I don't know, because we really don't understand the politics of it. But I think once they realized how popular it was, we got a memo from PBS that says, since there's no more racism in America, we don't think we need to do Soul as an all-black show. And,
wow.
Right, because racism had ended. And they gave him an option to say if he would integrate the show. And he said, no, that's not
good for him.
You know.
It's called Soul.
We got kicked off.
Wow.
Yeah. We did not get funded. And I'll tell you, the thing that stays in your heart are the thousands and thousands of letters that came through. Because people looked at this show like it was church, because there was no communication in terms of the United States. Everything was kind of localized. You probably had local shows, ABC, not ABC, we had community stations. But the first time that you saw a George Faison, Sweet Otis, he did a dance to all of the songs of Otis Redding with these black dancers flying around the stage and this, and you say, what? Or you heard Joan Cortez. We had political people like Stokely Carmichael. We had Louis Farrakhan, who spoke, and he would give them an hour. It's those moments. Now, when they canceled us, we were taught, I said, Ellis, we should get some of the tapes. So I called trying to get the tapes. They said, oh, no, we erased those.
Yeah, that's what they did back then.
They didn't erase them.
Oh.
Did not erase them. I believe the lie. 10, 15 years after, I'm sitting in a vegan restaurant of all places in New York. And this guy says, hey, how are you? I said, fine. I thought he was looking at Amen. And he said, oh. He said, I recognize you. I said, oh, nice. Do you like the show? He said, I'm not talking about that show. I said, oh, what are you talking about? He said, Soul. I said, oh, you used to watch Soul? He said, no, I have copies of them.
Wow.
And I said, you do? I said, they erased them. He said, no. I said, you have copies? He said, give me your address. I'll send you copies.
Wow.
And that's how I got copies of the Soul Show.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, oh, the Underground Railroad is alive and well. Incredible. Incredible. So you don't give up hope. I don't know why the lies were told. I have no idea. But obviously we were doing something, and I guess Black history, Black brilliance could be considered dangerous. You don't know that when you're learning. You would develop your mind. You don't know that that's the dangerous thing. But you have to remember, going back in history, it was illegal for us, for slaves, to learn how to read. Why?
How to read. Yeah.
Why was that so dangerous?
Knowledge is power.
You can't take it away from people. So that's interesting on Comedy Divas. That's the comedy of errors. Okay? Yeah. So that's how I got a lot of my history back.
So you were a young performer. You were in New York. You're doing theater. How did you make your way to Hollywood?
You audition for something. I had no need to leave New York, to tell you the truth. And Hollywood, a casting person said, we have this show. They're going to do a Black show about the church. And I said, well, I don't act like those people in Hollywood act. And they said, what do you mean? I said, I don't act like that. I'm a little different. Now, before that, I was doing TV movies. We would do for some reason, ABC had a program that did one black movie a year.
Mm-hmm.
They had a contest, and usually I would audition for that, and I would get a part. Okay. So the first movie I did with Dick Anthony Williams, Hattie Winston, and the Morgan Freeman, every black actor in New York used to be in these once a year black TV movies. Mm-hmm. And then when Amen came, I auditioned, and they called and said, "Oh, you have a callback." I said, "Really?" And so I had a meeting with Ed Weinberger, and I had just finished a TV movie with what's her name? Phil Donahue's wife, Marlo Thomas.
Okay.
And so with Lee Grant directing. So I thought I was hot stuff. I said, "Listen, I don't know what kind of show you're doing, but let me explain to you. When you're dealing with the black church, if you get it right, they'll love you. If you get it wrong, there'll be a lynch mob outside." I said, because black people love Jesus. Okay? So you can't say that. We own Jesus. Okay? We own Jesus. So you have to do it with the same kind of care. Okay? I said, if you do it right. Now, in the meantime, we had groups, special, once a year. You know, the networks were smart enough to gather us together. And every time we got gathered, we got high ratings. So Johnny Carson hired this man to be president of his company. And he said, "I'll accept the part of president to your company if you produce under your name," because he had a deal, "and if you produce my show." And that's how we got. So Johnny Carson owned Amen.
What?
Yeah. So it was me and
one of the whitest white men. Oh,
can you believe it? Leah used to come down to see us rehearsing. Come down to see the rehearsals.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me just take you back, because you book Amen, and I mean it's Sherman Hemsley, it's
Clifton Davis,
and Roz,
and Barbara McCurry, and Jester Hairston. Yeah.
Who literally wrote the song Amen.
Yes. Yeah, but we didn't use his.
No, I know it's the original Amen. Yeah. So what was that like around all of those?
Talking to Jester Hairston, who I had seen on Amos and Andy for years, because he played Sapphire's brother and also a lawyer. I think he had two parts. I would sit at his feet and just ask stories, because him coming to Hollywood in the 30s, okay, Jester must have been 85 when he started on Amen. And it was so incredible. When Amen finished, I went to his house every day for 2 or 3 months to archive all of his stuff. Oh my God. He told stories about John Wayne, about Tarzan. He was the black man in Tarzan. And he said, they would put me in the cage first. And he said, I would tell them before Johnny Weissmuller came in. And he said, I told her, the lion said, we don't want no black meat. We got all this black meat out here. We want some of you. And I thought, oh, boy. I said, but they would test the lion with you? He said, yeah.
What? Wow.
Sharon, you're a lot of wows.
I mean, the stories you're telling me, it's like.
We survived. We learned how to survive. We learned how to survive, and I don't know who the joke is on, but we in spite of all of that. And then we have greatness. You still, because it wasn't for them to see, it was for us to do. But we all have a different definition of what success means to you.
For sure.
My biggest dream came true when my mother and father, two immigrants from little teeny countries far away, could push a button and see the child that, as I tell my mother, who gave me a spanking every day. Okay? Anna, you're a terrible child. A terrible child. You grew up to be a nice human being. a grown up, but you are really a bad child to have. And but the idea that my mother and father could look at a TV and see their child on Saturday night, and then when my father started saying, "Tell your father," I said, "No, Daddy, you're my father, Sherman." He believed it. Okay, Deacon Fry was God. They laughed and enjoyed every moment and suspended their belief that that was their daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Wonderful. That is wonderful. It really is.
That's my award. That's my Tony. Well, not Tony. Emmy. That's my Emmy. You know.
Well, I will say you should have been nominated because even I watched it when I was younger, but even watching it as an adult, you really appreciate the work you did on Amen because you did a lot of physical comedy too. You were funny
and loved every moment. A lot of kids. They said, "Oh, I remember." And the wonderful part about Amen, I will say, is that we're multi-generation audiences. So a lot of rappers say, "I remember looking at you with my mother or my grandmother. My grandmother loved you." I said, "You did?" They said, "Yeah, I did too, but my grandmother really loved you." That, for me, I'm going to take that as my reward. You know what I mean? As the reward. There are 2 or 3 generations could watch you at the same time. And the memory of it, when they say they love me, I said they loved remembering how much what they had there. You know, it's like playing a song. The song sounds good, but what is going on in your mind is what person you were in love with then, or what belief system you had, or just the moment, the first time, you know what I mean? So the show, it's the same thing because they go back and in their eyes, it's so much joy.
Yeah.
So much joy. You have to say, "Oh."
It's the memories. It's the sense memories too, because it brings these times where you just remember it connects it to something. I remember when that was going on. I remember this and that. And it brings so much joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you go from working with these legends to then working with these, well, a kind of legendary family, but these new kids on the block with the Wayans Brothers.
Yeah.
So how did the Wayans Brothers come about?
Listen, that was the biggest shock of all. Okay, the biggest shock of all, because my manager called. I've been out of work for almost 2 years, 18 months, and my agent called. He said, "Oh, I think I'm going to have to call you later. We have a job for you next week." And I said, "Listen, I'm going out with my girlfriend. This is her birthday. She's paying for the dinner, so I'm going to do that. Call me when you feel like it." I was going out with LaTanya Richardson Jackson. And it was her birthday. I went out. He called me at 10 o'clock that night. He said, "You have to sign the contract and da-da-da-da-da." I said, "Okay." And he said, "Make sure you sign it." I said, "Well, usually they send it to your office." He said, "No, something about I'm going to try and get you more money on a weekly." I said, "No, I thought it was just one show next week." And he said, No, this is for the series." I said, "Stop." I said, "Oh my God, I talked about that show so bad and those 2 boys so bad." I said, "Oh," and when I hung the phone, I said, "God forgive me. Wasn't talking bad about your children, but now you know, okay?" And I walked in and they were the sweetest. I cannot tell you how much love. And I promise I wasn't going to talk about that no more. Okay. But they were the sweetest human beings. And again, I think in a strange way, Friday gave me an introduction to the younger generation because they knew I could deal with the first set. But then when they saw me on Friday, I was Ice Cube's mother. That has been the biggest bonus I have had. I had more upgrades, more come to the front of the line because, "Excuse me, you Craig's mother?" I said, "Then you know who I am. You know I'm Craig's mother. Why you asking? Okay. Craig's mama did it."
Well, speaking of that, it's the 30th anniversary of Friday.
I believe that. And everybody said, "So they're doing the next one?" I said, "We've been talking about it for 30 years. Okay. I don't know. They said, well, I hear they're shooting now. I said, well, they're shooting it without me. Then somebody got mad. They're shooting it without you. I said, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. No. What he said was that New Line had it on their desk. They just refused to do it.
Hmm. So let's talk about it. I mean, that became a cult classic, and people can quote lines from it, and it was so many great.
Look at it every Friday. When people tell you these stories, you can't believe it. You cannot believe it. In every single country. Every single, I mean, that's, again, you don't know you're doing it when you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You shoot.
Yeah.
We're going out at night because it was an all-night shoot. It was one day, so we shot from 6 o'clock on to 6 in the morning. Okay? Everybody had a teeny little trailer. It was a low budget. And I had to audition for it. Now, yes, I was in the midst of Amen. And I said, because I had done another movie with a group from Paramount years before. And I said, how interesting. If I could make these other people's movies good, let me do that for these little black children.
Mm.
And that was my mindset, because I knew what I brought to this other movie I had done, this prison movie. And I said, let me do it for these black kids. I did not know any rappers. Okay. I didn't know anything from Ice-T. I really did. They talk too fast, so I can't understand what they're saying, and I still don't know. And so whenever we had rappers guest star, I would call some of my young friends and say, now what's the name of that song? They said, you know, I said, I ain't never heard that song, but sing it to me so I can act like I know it. Okay. And that's how that started. But it was a love affair of a family. Yeah.
And I had I interviewed Angela Means, who played Felicia. That by Felicia has become like
yes,
the cult classic.
Everybody, even TV shows now I see, and somebody in the thing says by Felicia. I said, did not know. His mother came to the set and we talked, and I said, tell me something that you and him only know. You know, like you do, like you pinch the face or the hands or something like that. And then he came, he said, Ma, and the mother kept saying, you know who this is? Do you know? He said, yeah. And she was, I said, no, but your son brought all this together. And then I asked him one day, I said, tell your father to come on the set. He came back that morning, he said, my father said he is not a meat work to come here and see nobody making no movie. Okay? All right? If we tape on Saturday and Sunday, he can come, but he is not giving up a day's work. Okay? So these were real colored people. Real colored people who respected their job. Yeah. Yeah.
Hilarious. One thing I'm always curious about too, were you ever asked to lose your New York accent?
What New York accent? I don't have a New York accent.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you think.
No, so
I used to say when you were on Amen, because I know a New Yorker, and I hear one.
You're it. Oh, that is funny.
We used to be on Amen. You'd be like, Daddy.
Yeah.
You had a New York accent on Amen.
Well, I'm annoying more people with that daddy thing. I had an older sister who would say that. She was the most annoying, and I didn't realize how much it annoyed me until people would say, if you say that daddy one more time, I said, oh, is it really that long? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when they want to get my attention, people will scream across the room and say, Daddy. You know. Okay. Or Reuben. So that will stay with me forever. Okay. Yeah.
Forever and ever.
Yeah.
It's such warm memories. People love it.
A woman chasing a man desperate. As my ex-boss said, Ellis Hazlett said, Anna, you are so much. He said, you are a gay woman. I said, what does that mean? He said, chasing a man that don't want you. He said, like all these other men out here. Now, he was a proud gay man. He said, you are just chasing them just like they chase them. I said, what do you mean? He said, you know that man don't want you, and you still bothering him. I said, stop. I can't say the words he used, but anyway. So that was interesting. Yeah, I loved Reuben Gregory. Trying to remember his name now. He got a new wife now on the soap opera about Beyonce.
Yes. Beyonce.
Yeah.
Tamara Tooney, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. But the wife said when they go places together, people get an attitude with her because they think she broke us up.
Oh my
Okay.
God. But listen, Thelma eventually got Reuben. Didn't it?
Baby. Yes,
And married him. Yes, she did.
she did. Yes, got him to be jealous. Okay. There's a lot of women in between. A lot of women he tried to go with. But God bless. But you know what I think about Thelma? The best relationship was she had a daddy who adored her.
Yes.
And that was, I think that helped Thelma's madness or craziness intact. We did the show when he canceled the wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and the audience, we're taping live, the audience booed him. When
Really?
oh yeah, because he left me at the altar. And he was so upset. And he told Ed he would do, because he's a minister, Seventh-day Adventist minister, and he would go places to do talks on the weekend. And he said, baby, the church community was so mad. They said, Brother Clifton, you did not have to treat Thelma that way. She didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve. And so he kept asking. He said, I don't run this show. I just do it. But they were upset that he hurt me. He broke Thelma's heart.
Sure did. And did she go into the military or something?
And then Richard Rampy fell in love with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got shaft, honey.
Somebody in the audience screamed out, girl, just go with him. The other one goes, you don't need him. And I said, oh, Lord, he take it very personal, honey. Very first. We love TV. We love movies. Like I went and saw Sinners a couple months ago. And I said, oh, they cleared it up for me. I loved every moment. And I said, oh, they explained a lot of stuff. It's when we see and we get to experience things that we have seen when we see it on screen. And we say, ooh. And the one line that sticks with me, she said, your mind didn't forget my body. I said, oh, hello. I don't know who she was, but I loved her. Yes. Okay. All right. Good, Sharon. We got off. But
I love it. You know, I
okay.
you all day. I love stories. This is what it's all about. Something I just wanted to ask you about too was we recently lost Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Yes.
And you were able to work with him on a sitcom with Tracy Ellis Ross. So what was it like working with Malcolm on Read Between the Lines?
Well, I knew Malcolm long before because every Black person in show business, we look for each other. And
sure.
We become friends, you know, even if it's an audition or on the studio floor, because we all know what it took for us to get there. Malcolm was wonderful. He was so good. He was so good, which I always credit who raise people who are good human beings. And he was always polite. He was almost an angel in the sense that he did a show, a poetry and music that he wrote. That's it. I had bought tickets for like 4 or 5 times to see it. But everybody I invited, the women would fall in love with him. And I said, stop, leave that alone. So I was a big fan of his. It's almost, we don't understand why good people die like that. We really don't.
Yeah.
And for me, it came to me thinking about him because it freezes you to a point where you try to answer something logical, even though it's emotional. And I said, it's interesting. We need to ask also, on the other hand, why are good people born? Who is
such a young?
Was he here on assignment? Because you know, we don't know. I mean, you speak with somebody and next day you said, well, you know, a lot of times you don't get pregnant most of the time. But when you get pregnant and this child, out of the 30,000 sperms and eggs that come together, this one, and you say, why was he born? This guy was so even-tempered, so respectable, so genuinely, and I'm sure there might be some dark tales on it, I know a few of the girlfriends, but they all same thing. How good he was to them. He treated these women wonderful. So my
You
thing,
hear that time and time again. He was just a good soul, good person.
my question is, why was he born? To infect his goodness in all of us or everybody he touched? He was one of the few child actors who became an adult actor. Because a
good one too.
grown now, a lot of them drugs or madness or a lot just never made it. Still had a wonderful relationship with his mother.
Yes.
You know, I mean, all those elements you put down. And I said, oh, okay. So did he finish his class? Did he finish his chores? You know? Yeah. You know, and whatever we ran into was always the same. And Malcolm, something, and he would look you in the eye like you were the only one he was talking to and paying attention to. You know those kind of men. There's some, you know,
Absolutely.
some people who do that. That you say, gosh, wait a minute. Wait, you listen to me?
Piercing into your soul.
Yeah. And you can't say anything. And I just hope, I feel so bad for the little girl.
Yeah.
And so with the baby who was there, you know, and maybe God will give her a gift and take the negative away from that and see the ascension, because he ascended. I mean, that's all you could say, you know, he ascended.
He impacted so many people. Like people were shook, like it was a member of the family, because he brought so many freaking joy.
Because we only want bad people to go.
Yeah.
We really want bad people to go, you know? And when a good person leaves you, you say, no, come on now. How can that be replaced? Well, are you going to send another angel to us? I don't know. So it's the same. It's the loss, you know. A lot of characters out of my book are gone. And you can't help but say, oh, okay. Robbie Reed's brother, Duran,
that was sad.
Human being.
Very sweet.
And young and this and, you know, I mean, most of the people who have gone in my circle are much younger than me. And so I have to ask, okay, you leaving me here. You're leaving me here, you know? But it means there's still work to do.
There's work to do.
Well, you have to meet. There's still podcasts I have to do, like yours.
More joy to bring.
Atlanta, yeah. I'm going to Atlanta. And you said, let's do it before Atlanta, you know? And so we're getting it in.
And yes, we are. This queen's career is so nice, we had to do it twice. So we're doing a part 2 for the very first time. Here's a sneak peek for what to expect for next week.
I didn't tell her I want to be around no coyotes at night and walking up the street. Sammy Davis Jr. Came up to me.
We don't all look alike that.
Leave my people alone. Leave my people alone. But she knew I was somebody. And they said, oh, 4th place, Eddie Murphy. And Eddie's face went, are you out of your mind? He didn't say anything. And I said, oh, he's not a good loser. The chance to work with Lucille Ball. Oh yes. Like we do.